David Quadrelli alongside Chris Faber, a stone's throw away from Highway 1 at Scotia Barn, also known as Burnaby 8 Rinks. Out, Bo Horvat, Connor Garland, JT Miller. Who else do we see today? Brock Besser making his return. More and more Canucks skaters filing in and participating in the skates here at 8 Rinks.
Yeah, most definitely. It's nice to see a lot more bodies getting back on the ice here. And for me, I was kind of just watching the way that Andrei Kuzmenko looked against these players as well, right? I mean, we've seen Kuzmenko skate with a lot of guys who do play in the NHL. Today was a full NHL skate we saw on the ice. You know, the defensemen, you have guys like Tyler Myers, Kyle Burrows, even Tucker Poolman out on the ice once again. So to see Kuzmenko kind of move and shoot and pass and all these things, he's kind of been the guy I've been watching at these summer skates the most, because I really want to get a feel on what his strengths are going to be when he gets to this NHL and starts to actually play regular season games. He's going to play a ton in the preseason. Bruce Boudreau has already mentioned that. But to see Kuzmenko match up and, go drill for drill with these players, I don't think he looks out of place at all in these spots.
Andrei Kuzmenko, let's talk about him for a second, because second in KHL scoring last season, signs with the Vancouver Canucks. The expectations are him. I feel like it's almost like an unknown commodity. People don't know how to rate him. We asked Vasily Podkolzin, who obviously played in the KHL with the same team as Andrei Kuzmenko. We asked him what you need to do to succeed in the NHL. What's the difference from the KHL? And Podkolzin's answer was very simple. It was just speed. He just said you need to be fast. Everything happens at a faster rate in the NHL. Is that going to complement Kuzmenko's game?
I think so far from what we see in these skates, there's no question about how hard he skates, the pace that he has, and specifically the ability to just have good hands at pace as well. Like he receives passes well. He's able to have soft hands with getting these passes from defensemen. He looks good in drills. Like I don't have any question about his speed and what we've seen so far in these summer skates. It's all going to be about seeing what the pace looks like when you actually get into a game, and that can start in preseason, right? That's when these guys really are going to crank it up. When you see a different colored jersey on the other side of the ice that isn't blue and white, you kind of give her a little bit more. So I'm excited to see Kuzmenko get into preseason games first, and I would like to just see him play in a top line role like we're expecting. We're expecting to see him be somewhere in the top six, whether it be with JT Miller, Bo Horvat, or Elias Pettersson. I mean, Kuzmenko is going to be given that opportunity for sure in the preseason. And with a guy like Nils Höglander on the outside of the top nine looking in, it's not like it's 100% we're going to see Kuzmenko in the top nine, because Höglander looks good. He's skating with speed. He's coming off an injury. He rehabbed really hard this summer. So it's going to need to be kind of proven in preseason that Kuzmenko is going to fit in that role.
So Bo Horvat, a guy who's probably going to play in the top 9 forward group, we are confident in saying. Bo Horvat, unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, in a similar position to JT Miller. JT Miller got extended though. Bo Horvat's without a contract. He was asked about that today.
Yeah, I mean, and Horvat spoke about the JT Miller contract and how much that means for the team. Now the attention kind of shifts towards Horvat, who is the captain of this team, is without a contract for next season. He's a pending UFA, as you mentioned. And he's the captain, right? He's got the C on his chest, and I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to take away from the conversation that maybe you saw that was interesting, but I found it that, he's here to play for this Canucks team this year. He mentioned that multiple times, and he is going to kind of let the agent worry about things.
And Horvat reiterated a few times that he is still a Vancouver Canuck, and that if he could choose, he'd be a Vancouver Canuck for his whole career. If he had to pick one club to remain with for his whole career, it'd be the Vancouver Canucks. So, again, that's kind of what I took from both things. Sorry, I'm fighting for my life against the sun here, folks, but Bo Horvat speaking today. Honestly, I'm almost more excited to hear Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes talk, and Brock Besser as well. We know about everything that Brock Besser dealt with his father last year, and again, Besser opened up about that in a piece with Michael Russo of The Athletic today. That came out, so I'm really interested to hear kind of his perspective on the new season and how his teammates were able to support him last year and all that. We'll have that story in Canucks Army.
I also found another interesting, I know you're going to love this about goaltenders, two players that we expect to see. You mentioned Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. We expect to see them on Tuesday from what we're hearing around the rink. But a guy who was on the ice today, who I know you might want to talk about, Mikey DiPietro making his return to the Vancouver Canucks colors. A little early still in the summertime. It wasn't like he was just going to show up and potentially be at Young Stars. I'm not really thinking he's going to be a goalie who goes to the Young Stars tournament. But for training camp anyways, still less than 2 weeks away now. This is our first time seeing Mikey DiPietro on the ice with the Canucks.
Mikey DiPietro, who reportedly asked for a trade out of Vancouver. So that's what makes this situation really interesting, right? Is Mikey DiPietro, again, he was kind of the chosen one last year. We had Jim Benning and Ryan Johnson both on the record saying he was going to play 55 to 65 games last year for Abbotsford. That number dwindled down, got leapfrogged by not only Artur Silovs, a younger goaltender, but also Spencer Martin, who's now the backup, slated backup for this NHL club. So Mikey DiPietro, I don't know if he's been forgotten, because personally I still believe in the kid. I'm quite excited to see what he's able to do this year. I just don't know where that's going to be. I don't know if there's much of a future in Vancouver, because look, there's a serious logjam at the goaltending position, right? Because look, the Canucks want depth. They've made that clear. But Patrick Allvin also told me when I asked him that they're going to have 2 goalies in the NHL, and they're going to have 2 goalies in Abbotsford. They're not going to run 3 goalies in Abbotsford again, as they did last year. So when you look at it, Thatcher Demko and Spencer Martin are probably your NHL goaltenders, and then you've got Artur Silovs and Colin Delia, who are probably going to make up your tandem in the AHL. So where does that leave Mikey DiPietro? What does he have to do at training camp in order to come in and get one of those jobs? Because I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and Colin Delia had his new pads, so today he's not wearing the red pads anymore, so good stuff for him. But, yeah, I mean, DiPietro had a really good finish to the AHL season last year, and I think when you look back at the year, you don't really look at it as a positive step, but he did play really good hockey. At the end of the year, aside from those final 2 games against the Manitoba Moose, DiPietro was excellent in the second half of the season, and it's interesting to me. It's a new management group. Obviously, they didn't do him great, the previous regime, when there was the bubble situation and him not playing any games, being on the bubble, part of the Black Aces group that was skating. I mean, it was tough, and I wonder if the new regime has been able to talk to him about the situation and how they want to use him, because I do think that he's still a pretty high-quality goalie prospect. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but wouldn't shock me to see him with the Abbotsford Canucks, because a trade hasn't happened up to this point. He's here, he's working with Ian Clark, all of that. I mean, I don't know if the whole timeline is over for Mikey DiPietro with the Vancouver Canucks, but I'll tell you what, I'm still not betting on him going in there and playing more games than a guy like Artur Silovs, who it feels like the organization is really invested in.
Lots of questions, folks. We're going to find you those answers. We're going to be out all week at Scotia Barn, Burnaby 8 Rinks. It's going to be a good time. David Quadrelli, Chris Faber, here for Canucks Army.